There are no shortages of videos where preppers discuss bugging in or bugging out. Some speak of a preference, but I don't think this is the correct mindset to have when speaking of any survival situation. If we had to have a preference, then surely we would want to stay in the comfort and security of our own homes with our loved ones. But in a survival situation, we are not in charge of the situation that comes knocking at our doors in its scary form. So it's not about a preference, it's about the right course of action, the correct decision to survive. There isn't a simple answer due to the amount of situations that can present themselves. Power grid failure, contaminated water supply, loss of central heating, floods. We usually see situations like this every winter in the UK. But what about solar flares, riots? What about war coming to the UK? Solar flares wrecking our satellites, which then wreck our communications, internet and all finances and various personal accounts that help us survive in this modern age. Bank accounts to Facebook accounts. Yeah, some people live more in social media than they do in the real world. Do you want these people panicking and going crazy at your doorstep? Let's take a look at riots. The UK riots from a few years back prove how easy people can rise up against the capitalist state, how the police struggle to contain the situation, the looting, fighting, violence, arsoning, damage to properties, setting fires, etc. We also have plenty of evidence of how this can happen. What about war coming to the UK? We have been watching war on TV all our lives, but it's never been at our doorstep since World War II. Apart from our heroic veterans and those of that generation, how many people from young to quite elderly have experienced that fear of bombs dropping around them? I for one haven't. The way the world is right now, and the hostilities arising more with the West against Russia and China, I keep a close eye on this one especially. So based on the situation, what determines the best course of action? Either we are bugging in or we are bugging out. It's not a preference, it's survival. So let's have a look at different ideas of bugging in and bugging out. Bugging in from an urban environment. This is not my best choice. I find the city life to be a bit of a paradox. We are social, communal beings by our very own nature, yet I find city life makes you be isolated and individualistic. Sure, we may have our small circles of friends and an easy access to a great social life in the city, but that individualistic lifestyle is such a busy, noisy and polluted environment that will not do anyone favours when it comes to survival. Panic, fear and sheer violence in order to look after oneself will be rife. Cities would be the place people would go first of all. The shops and supermarkets, the wealth of those properties of people who live there in the cities. It's the big invitation. The state will be targeted first, such as supermarkets and the shops, etc. Once they get emptied, which will be very fast, and those food and water supplies have been used, the only places left are private properties. So are you going to be defending the property? Does your property have a statement saying, "Rob me"? Do you have CCTV signs showing that there is something worth protecting? The wealth displayed in or around the property would be enough to attract the wrong attention. What measures have you taken to protect it from those who have ganged up together? Do you have your own gang? Do you have reinforced defences around the windows and doors? Around the parameters of the property? It's enough to think about. Urban environments will not be a good place to be, in my opinion. A prepper will have enough provisions that will prevent him from needing to go into the cities for supplies. However, I think it would be best to bug out if the situation is going to be lasting longer than a few days to a week. Sticking with the bugging in your home, this time we'll look at bugging in from a rural countryside environment where your house may be located. Bugging in your property out in the rural environment is a better option, as people who are trying to survive will be focused on the cities. Who with a minimum amount of common sense will be travelling miles into nowhere in order to find supplies? You might get the odd one or odd gang thinking smart by avoiding the cities and targeting the loners out in the countryside. It would be best therefore to have some defence in place. Same principles such as those you keep in your home, defence parameters and reinforced property defences. Nothing that would stand out for an open invitation. Rural locations and all the more isolated areas in the country have people who are well aware of harder work for day-to-day living. Many country homes don't have central heating. Instead, they have to put the time and effort into chopping logs, lighting fires in the house to keep it warm and heat the water also. They are in a better frame of mind to see harsh times through and wait it out. Bugging in for those in a rural environment will always be a good choice. But the things to be ready for are those who spill out of the city in a long-term survival situation. Are you ready for them? Defence should be a priority here. So let's look at bugging out. Bugging out, I think, will always be a smarter choice if you live in a rural environment. If it's going to last much longer than a few days or a week, then I would be looking to be away before it even starts. Looking at the UK riots as an example, shops and high street chains were targeted, not the homes of people, not directly anyway. And this shows people do come together to fight against the state and capitalism. It would take a frantic situation to bring fear and panic. The power grid being down might not be enough to do this straight away. Some environmental disasters might do the job. What about a situation that brings martial law into play? All of a sudden we are being herded like cattle, just a number. I won't be about for that, hopefully. I will be gone. Bugging out may not be needed if you're in a rural area or in the countryside. I find the countryside to be the opposite of the city life. I, for one, live in a close-knit community. I think the close-knit communities will be taking longer to reach a breaking point, and I can see them coming together much easily to wait the situation out if possible. Bugging out in such areas, especially if it's more of an isolated or countryside area, would be an extreme measure. Only if it's a threat to life and you know you can't save yourself there. An environmental factor or defenceless property. We will always need shelter, water and food. Whether it's your own home or a bug-out vehicle, or if you're under a shelter in the wild, you will make a hold somewhere. You will hunt and work around and afar, only to come back to this location until it's time to move on. If we have the basics covered, we stand the best chance. But no one has the right answer. There isn't one answer. It always comes back to the situation and the best course of action. That's why a superior mindset is the best tool we can have. Rational thinking. Someone who is prepared and has plans for any situation as best as possible. The best way to be is the grey man. Quiet but alert. Smart, not confrontational. Blend in, don't stand out. Whatever may come your way, we can never be prepared enough for it. I look forward to the comments and discussion below, so please get in touch with your own ideas, opinions, etc. And don't forget to subscribe and like the video. The next video coming on this subject of prepper talk is going to be looking more in depth to the psychology of the prepper, being the grey man. So stay tuned and I look forward to hearing from you again.